All right, today we're going to talk about is domain and range. And also we're going to talk about continuous versus discrete functions. So continuous functions have smooth graphs with no breaks. Discrete functions are not continuous and they're counted or measured by whole numbers. So if you were to look here, this is continuous because there's no breaks, it just keeps going on and on. So this is continuous. And then this graph is individual points. So all discrete, and they're all, so this would be considered discrete because you have your points here on here. All right, so for inequalities, or excuse me, for continuous graphs, what you're going to do is we usually write it as an inequality. For domain, you're going to go left to right. And for range, you're going to go from the bottom up. So make sure you know for continuous graphs what to do. And again, we typically write that as an inequality. Now for discrete graphs, you just list all the points. So we do not use interval notation or inequalities. All right, so the domain is the set of all x values that a function or relation can take on. The range is a set of all the y values that a function or relation can take on. And I like to try to color coordinate mine where I have x values as blue, y values as red for the domain and range. All right, so let's look at this first one. Now, for this first one, we want to know, is it discrete or is it continuous? Well, since these are individual points and they are not connected, this is discrete. Now, in order for your domain and your range for discrete, you just list the numbers. So remember, for domain, those are your x values. So we're going to just look at the x values here. And we typically put it in this set notation where we put the little braces around it. For range, these are all of our y values. And y values would be listed here, and we typically put them in order from least to greatest. So really we would read it going up this way, so it would be here. And then for domain, we would go this way, so we would read it from here. So we put them in order from least to greatest, like that. All right, I want you to try this one. Determine if it's discrete or continuous, and then I want you to list the domain and the range. And if it's easier to list your points, do that. All right, so now let's look at this one. It looks crazy right now, but we're going to go back and we'll talk about it. So for this, I know, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to erase some of these just so it doesn't look as overwhelming to begin with. There you go. All right, so for this, what we're going to do is we're looking at continuous, and the reason it's continuous is because you have a point here and then it stops here. So this is considered continuous. So we're going to write this using intervals and inequalities. So for this, your domain are your x values. So I'm going to use light blue for my x values. And so I'm just looking from where this goes. So if you notice, this goes from 3 all the way to 9. So from 3 to 9, another way is to think that it goes from here to here. And this x is -3. This x is +9. So these are your x's. So then all I do is I just take from here, because this is where it goes, from -3 to 9 on your x's. And then I go -3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 9. So basically what this is saying is x is anywhere between here. All right. So also, if you notice, this is a closed. So since this is closed, that's why we need to put the equal to part underneath here. And then the same thing here, this point is also closed, so that's why we need to have that there. Okay, so that's for your domain. Now your range, I'm going to use the red for range. You're looking at your y values. So the y's go from here all the way up to here. And I'm going to kind of go over where it says closed. So for that one, I've got -5. And then it goes up to 6. So if you look here, this is -5, and it goes all the way up to 6. So that's our range, and that's why I put -5 to 6, but this time I put y in the middle, because it could be any of those values. Oops, sorry, I meant to go this way, for your y value or your range. All right, so now let's look at this one. Now I'm going to leave the lines on there so we can just see this. But first off, is this discrete or continuous? Well, it's the line connecting it. It's not all separate points. So this is continuous. And now remember, your domain are your x values. So we're looking at our x's. So it goes from here all the way to here. And this point is -1. And if you notice, this is an open point. So that's why I only have this. I do not have a line underneath it. Then you got x. Now notice, this is closed. So since it's closed, that's why we have the line underneath it. So this is considered your domain. Now your range are your y values. So we're looking, the lowest it goes is here, the highest it goes is here. So it's going to go from -3 all the way up to 2. And this one is -3 is less than or greater than y, which is less than or greater than 2. Or, sorry, less than or equal to, y, and less than or equal to 2. All right, and then that's all you have to do. Now this one is a little different. And here's why. When you're doing your domain, you're looking at your x values. Well, your domain definitely goes from -4. But if you notice, see this arrow? That arrow means it's going to keep going forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So since this arrow, it's telling you it's going from -4 all the way to positive infinity. So how we would write this one, so it is continuous because it counts all the little points in between. So it is continuous, but for your domain, what you're going to do is you're going to say it's going to be all the numbers from -4 all the way to positive infinity. So x is greater than or equal to -4, and it does end at this point. That's why we have that underneath the inequality. Now for y's, your range, your y's, it starts at 0. So here's 0 for your y. But since this is going wider, it's also getting gradually higher. So your y's are going to go to positive infinity also. So it's going to be all the values from 0 and up. So we would say y is greater than or equal to 0. So be careful when you see an arrow, because that means it continues on and it does not end. All right, now this one is a different one. Well, we're building on what we did with the other one. So first off, it's continuous because it's not individual points. Now again, look at your arrows at the end. This means as your parabola continues on, it's going to keep getting wider, and it's going to continue getting wider, so its domain is going to go through all the x values as it spreads out and gets wider. So what we would say for this one, since both of the arrows go down, it's going to go to negative infinity and to positive infinity for your x values. So we say that's all real numbers. Another way you may see it written, it looks like an R with a double line. And so that means all real numbers. Now your y, it stops right here, but it's going to go on forever and ever and ever. So we say it's going to be less than or equal to -5 since it's pointing downwards. So this is your y, which is going to go to negative infinity here. So that's why we say this. So just be careful when you're doing and watch for those arrows. All right, now again with this one, there's no endpoints because you've got an arrow here, you've got an arrow here. So again, this is continuous because there's no individual points. And the domain, well, your x's are going to keep getting bigger or smaller because this is going to extend out and that line's going to extend out. So we're going to say it's all real numbers. And again, you can do that R with the double. That means all real numbers. And then your range, well, it's also going to be getting higher up or it's going to be getting lower. So that also is all real numbers. All right. Now this one does have endpoints. So since this does have endpoints, we can go back to what we were doing before. This is continuous because it's all the points in between. Oops, sorry. And then we know our domain. Look at your x's. So it would be 7 or -7. And then this is 5. So from -7 to 5 is going to be your domain. And then the range is going to be from -3 to +1. And that's how you would write that there. And since they're both closed, you would put it in that notation. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to go through, you're going to complete all of these. You're going to say, is it discrete or continuous? You're going to list your domain, list your range. Now be careful, we do have some arrows here. So just be careful how high or low or left or right your point's going. And then watch out if it's open or closed, because that will also change what you're writing there. And then that is domain and range.